The shuttle vibrated slightly as it docked with the sprawling mass of the Intergalactic Academy, floating majestically against the backdrop of stars. Zelos peered out of the viewport, his breath fogging up the glass as he took in the sight of his new home for the next few years. "First time at the Academy?" asked a voice beside him. Zelos turned to find a young woman with luminescent skin and eyes that shimmered like nebulae, a characteristic of the Aqualian people. "Yes," Zelos replied, his voice betraying a mix of excitement and nerves. "It's quite different from Krythor." The Aqualian laughed, a melodious sound that eased some of Zelos's tension. "You'll get used to it. I'm Lyra, by the way." "Zelos. Nice to meet you, Lyra." As they stepped off the shuttle, a robotic guide greeted them with a series of cheerful beeps and started leading them through the labyrinthine corridors of the Academy. The walls were lined with holograms depicting famous historical events and innovations from various civilizations across the galaxy. "So, Zelos, what brings you to the Academy?" Lyra asked as they walked. "I'm here to study ascendant civilizations. I'm particularly interested in humans," Zelos responded, watching a hologram of humans facilitating a peace treaty between two warring alien species. "Ah, humans. They are a fascinating subject. Their history is quite dramatic," Lyra said, her voice full of curiosity. "Yes, their ability to adapt and advance quickly is what intrigues me the most," Zelos admitted. They arrived at a large auditorium where new students were gathering for the orientation. The room buzzed with the languages of dozens of species, creating a symphony of galactic diversity. Soon, a man walked onto the stage, commanding immediate attention. He was tall and had the confident posture of a seasoned scholar. "Welcome, students, to the Intergalactic Academy," he began, his voice resonant and clear. "I am Dr. John Rivers, and I will be one of your mentors here. Our goal is to prepare you to understand and interact with a multitude of civilizations, not just as scholars, but as diplomats and leaders." Dr. Rivers continued, outlining the curriculum and the expectations from each student. After the orientation, Zelos approached Dr. Rivers, who had mentioned his expertise in human societal structures during his speech. "Dr. Rivers, I'm Zelos from Krythor. I have a deep interest in human civilization and its phases of ascension," Zelos said once he caught the mentor's attention. "Ah, Zelos, welcome. The human story is indeed a compelling one. What aspect of their history are you most interested in?" Dr. Rivers asked, his eyes lighting up with interest. "Their early 21st century. It was a period of great turmoil, but also significant technological and social advancement," Zelos replied. "Excellent period. Chaotic, yet pivotal. You'll find that humans often thrived in adversity, pushing forward innovations that not only advanced their civilization, but also helped them to form alliances across stars," Dr. Rivers explained, his enthusiasm evident. "I look forward to learning more under your guidance," Zelos said, feeling a surge of excitement about the prospects of his studies. "You've chosen an exciting field, Zelos. I think you will bring a fresh perspective to our discussions. Let's pave the way for a semester of discovery and understanding," Dr. Rivers concluded, clapping Zelos on the shoulder before moving on to greet other students. As Dr. Rivers walked away, Lyra, who had waited nearby, joined Zelos again. "Looks like you're off to a great start, Zelos." "Thanks, Lyra. It seems like this is going to be an interesting journey," Zelos replied, a smile spreading across his face as he looked around at his fellow students, each from different corners of the universe, all united in their quest for knowledge at the Intergalactic Academy. After the orientation, Zelos and Lyra joined their fellow students in a sprawling dining hall bathed in soft light, where tables laden with foods from various planets awaited them. As they chose a spot, Zelos couldn't help but be drawn to the diversity around him. The hall was a bustling mosaic of species and colors. "Trying new food is always an adventure here," Lyra commented, picking up a neon-colored fruit from a nearby platter. "Looks interesting," Zelos said, eyeing the fruit warily, but picking one up nonetheless. As they began eating, Dr. Rivers approached their table, tray in hand. "Mind if I join you?" "Not at all, Dr. Rivers," Zelos quickly replied, gesturing to the empty seat beside him. The students around the table quieted, eager to listen to the renowned mentor. Dr. Rivers settled in, his gaze sweeping over the group. "I see you're trying the Glexian fruit, Zelos. A fine choice. It adapts its flavor to suit the eater's palate." Zelos took a tentative bite, and to his surprise, the fruit tasted remarkably like a sweet from his homeworld. "That's amazing," he said, genuinely impressed. Dr. Rivers smiled. "Humans had a similar reaction when they first joined the intergalactic community. They were astounded by the variety and adaptability of extraterrestrial cultures. That must have been quite a challenge for them, Lyra chimed in, her eyes reflecting her curiosity. It was indeed, Dr. Rivers acknowledged. Humans had to navigate many obstacles during their early years in the interstellar arena. They often found themselves underprepared but showed a remarkable ability to learn and adapt quickly. How did they manage to catch up so quickly? Zelos asked, leaning forward, his interest piqued. Through sheer determination and an insatiable curiosity, Dr. Rivers explained. They also invested heavily in education and cultural exchanges, much like what we do here at the Academy. Their strategic alliances must have played a role too, right? Zelos speculated, recalling fragments of his pre-Academy readings. Absolutely, Dr. Rivers agreed. They were very astute in forming alliances. Often, they would share technology and resources, creating a symbiotic relationship with other civilizations. This not only accelerated their technological advancements, but also cemented their place as a diplomatic force. Zelos absorbed every word, his mind racing with ideas and questions. And their military strategies? I read that they were crucial in their ascension. Dr. Rivers nodded, a hint of respect in his tone. Yes, their strategies were innovative, often turning the tide in critical conflicts. But it was their ability to forge peace after conflict that truly set them apart. They understood the importance of stability and growth, which won them many allies. The conversation turned to more casual topics as the meal progressed, but Zelos's thoughts remained on the humans and their journey to prominence. He was beginning to understand the complexity of their civilization, a tapestry woven with threads of innovation, strategy, and diplomacy. As they left the dining hall, Dr. Rivers pulled Zelos aside. You seem very interested in the humans. How about I arrange access to some exclusive archives for you? They contain detailed accounts of human diplomatic missions and their outcomes. Zelos's eyes lit up with excitement. That would be incredible, Dr. Rivers. Thank you. Meet me tomorrow at my office. We'll set it up, Dr. Rivers said, giving Zelos a reassuring pat on the shoulder before departing. Walking back to his quarters, Zelos felt a surge of anticipation. He was about to delve deeper into the history of a civilization that had risen from chaos to a position of respect and power in the galaxy, and he could not wait to uncover all its secrets. Later that week, as the artificial night began to blanket Orbitar, Zelos received a discreet message on his communicator. It was from Dr. Rivers, inviting him to a special, off-the-record lecture that evening. Intrigued and a bit cautious, Zelos made his way to the designated meeting point, a seldom-used conference room in the east wing of the Academy. Inside, the lights were dimmed, and a small group of students, handpicked by Dr. Rivers, gathered around. Zelos recognized a few from his classes, all known for their sharp intellect and curiosity. Thank you for coming at such a late hour, Dr. Rivers began, his voice low. What I'm about to share must stay within these walls. Are we in agreement? A murmur of assent passed through the group, and Dr. Rivers proceeded to activate a hidden projector. The room flickered with the light of ancient data streams as images of primitive human artifacts appeared on screen. These are known as the catalysts, Dr. Rivers announced, pointing to the intricate metallic objects adorned with unknown symbols. Discovered on Earth long after they had become an interstellar species, these artifacts are believed to have played a significant role in what we call the human ascension. The students leaned in, captivated. Zelos felt his heart rate pick up, sensing the importance of what they were being shown. Dr. Rivers switched to another image, this one showing a timeline of human advancements correlating with the discovery of each catalyst. Notice the spikes in technological and cultural development after each discovery. It's too consistent to be mere coincidence. Why hasn't this been made public? A tentaculid student asked, his voice echoing slightly in the quiet room. The official reason? The fear of causing a societal upheaval. But the unofficial reason, which is whispered among top scholars, is the fear of these catalysts falling into the wrong hands, Dr. Rivers explained. So they're potentially powerful beyond just educational value? Lyra whispered, her expression one of mixed awe and concern. Exactly, Dr. Rivers nodded. And there's reason to believe that there are more catalysts out there, possibly hidden or yet to be discovered. The room buzzed with whispered conversations. Zelos thought about the implications of such artifacts existing and the power struggles they could ignite if known to the broader galaxy. How are we supposed to proceed with this knowledge? Zelos asked, voicing the tension that hung in the air. That's why you're all here, Dr. Rivers said, his gaze sweeping over the group. You represent a new generation of thinkers and leaders. How you use this information, how you decide to influence your respective cultures and the broader interstellar community, could very well shape the future of the galaxy. Dr. Rivers allowed the students to discuss among themselves for a while before continuing. I have arranged for each of you to access a secured virtual site where you can learn more about these artifacts and their histories. I encourage you to think critically about the ethical dimensions of this knowledge. As the meeting adjourned, Zelos stayed back to ask Dr. Rivers a personal question. Do you believe these catalysts are the key to understanding human success? Dr. Rivers paused, then answered thoughtfully. I believe they are a part of it, Zelos. But the true key lies in their relentless pursuit of knowledge and understanding, much like what I see in you and your peers. Walking back to his dorm, Zelos felt a weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. The secret lesson wasn't just about human history, it was a call to think about what kind of future he wanted to help create. The next morning, still buzzing from the revelations of Dr. Rivers' secret lecture, Zelos met with Lyra and two other classmates, Velk from the technologically advanced planet Zeltron and Sora, a historian from the enigmatic shadow moons of Grenthar. They huddled together in the Academy's central library, a vast dome filled with data streams and holographic records that floated like ghosts in the soft morning light. Dr. Rivers hinted at more artifacts, possibly undiscovered. That means there could be hidden archives or databases we haven't accessed yet, Zelos proposed, his voice low and conspiratorial. Velk, who had brought along a sleek datapad, nodded in agreement. I've been scanning the Academy's network for any unusual security measures or encrypted files. There's a pattern of high-security access not typical for academic use located in the sublevels. Sora leaned in, her eyes gleaming with intrigue. Sublevels are mostly for maintenance and storage. Why would there be high security, unless there's something more valuable than old equipment down there? We need to check it out, Lyra said decisively. If there are more records or artifacts related to what Dr. Rivers showed us, we have to know. The group agreed to meet later that night to explore the sublevels. Disguised as maintenance staff, they accessed the restricted area using credentials Velk had managed to forge. The corridors were dimly lit and lined with pipes and wiring, a stark contrast to the polished aesthetics of the upper levels. Velk led the way to a nondescript door guarded by a biometric security panel. This is it, he whispered, pulling out another device. Give me a minute. As Velk worked on bypassing the security, Zelos felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. They were about to cross a line, but the potential to uncover hidden truths about human ascension and perhaps other civilizations was too compelling. With a soft beep, the panel turned green, and the door slid open silently. The room beyond was dark, but as Sora waved a hand, portable lights flickered on, revealing rows of ancient-looking data vaults. We're in, Velk murmured, stepping inside first. The team split up, each examining different vaults. Zelos approached one that hummed softly, its surface cool and smooth to the touch. He activated the interface, and the screen lit up with archives so old they must have been among the first digital records ever created. Guys, you need to see this, Zelos called out, staring in disbelief at the screen before him. The others gathered around as holograms sprang to life, showing timelines and images of early human explorations into space, their first contact with alien species, and the discovery of initial catalyst artifacts. There were detailed analyses of how each discovery led to leaps in technological and social advancements. This is what Dr. Rivers was talking about, Sora said, her voice hushed. These records show the direct impact of the catalysts on human history. And look here, Lyra added, pointing to a schematic of a device labeled as a quantum coherence drive. This technology came decades before it should have been possible. It's clear evidence of catalyst influence. Velk, meanwhile, was browsing through encrypted files he'd managed to unlock. There's reference to other sites, possibly on Earth and other colonies, where more artifacts might be hidden. This is bigger than we thought. Armed with this new knowledge, they realized the importance of what they had discovered. It was not just academic curiosity. This information could reshape the understanding of human history and its role in the galaxy. As they left the archives, making sure everything was as they found it, the weight of their discovery settled over them. They had uncovered secrets that others had gone to great lengths to conceal. What to do with this knowledge would be their next challenge. They needed to plan carefully, aware of the potential consequences of bringing these truths to light. The discovery in the hidden archives ignited a fervor of strategic discussions among Zelos and his group. In the quiet corners of the Academy's many gardens, they debated their next moves under the watchful eyes of artificial moons. Unearthing this information was the first step, Velk stated, tapping his datapad thoughtfully. Now we must consider the broader implications. Who else knows, and who else should know? Sora, always the cautious one, furrowed her brows. We need to be wary. This information could destabilize relations across the galaxy if it's not handled with care. Our own governments might not appreciate us digging up these secrets. Zelos nodded in agreement. We should think about consulting Dr. Rivers again. He initiated this. Perhaps he can guide us on how to approach the Intergalactic Council with what we've found. As they spoke, Lyra kept her eyes on the surrounding foliage, her intuition on high alert. We're not the only ones interested in this, she whispered suddenly, causing the others to quiet down and scan their surroundings. Let's take this somewhere more secure, Velk suggested, leading them to a lesser-known study room equipped with noise-dampening technology. Once secured, they continued their planning, unaware that their earlier meetings had already been noticed by curious parties. Word of their nocturnal activities began to spread, distorted by rumors and speculation. Meanwhile, news of their discovery reached Zelos' home planet of Krythor. Alarmed, the Krythorian Council convened an emergency session. This student, Zelos, has accessed classified historical data, one council member announced, reviewing the transmitted reports. We must decide how to handle this. The humans were never meant to share their early Ascension artifacts' impacts openly. Back at the Academy, Zelos received a cryptic message from an unknown source. Meet at the old observatory at midnight. Come alone. Deciding the risk was worth the potential for answers, Zelos complied. At the observatory, a figure stepped from the shadows. It was Dr. Rivers, looking more grave than Zelos had ever seen him. I had hoped to shield you all a bit longer, but it seems we're out of time, Dr. Rivers confessed. There are forces at play here much larger than our academic pursuits. What you found could change the power dynamics in the galaxy. Why hasn't there been an effort to share this knowledge openly? Zelos asked, frustration tinged with confusion clear in his voice. Because, Zelos, knowledge is power. And power is something that many fear will shift the balance they've worked so hard to maintain, Dr. Rivers explained. Your findings threaten to expose a narrative that many in the Council and beyond have suppressed for centuries. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Zelos felt the weight of potential conflict. What should we do then? Hide everything we've learned? No, Dr. Rivers shook his head. We bring it to light, but strategically. You and your friends have ignited a spark. It's time to stoke the flames, but carefully. We must present your findings at the next assembly of the Intergalactic Council. It's the only way to ensure that this information is handled justly. Feeling a mix of apprehension and determination, Zelos returned to his friends to relay Dr. Rivers' advice. They agreed to compile their evidence, preparing to step into the broader galactic arena, where their discoveries could either broker unprecedented cooperation or ignite divisive conflicts. As they worked through the night, a sense of unity and purpose solidified among them. They were no longer just students. They were catalysts for potential galactic change, armed with the most potent weapon of all: truth. As the day of the presentation to the Intergalactic Council approached, Zelos and his group worked tirelessly to consolidate their findings into a compelling argument. Their plan was to demonstrate not only the historical significance of the catalyst artifacts, but also the potential benefits of transparency and shared knowledge among civilizations. We're ready, Lyra declared after their final preparation session, her voice firm with resolve. They had gathered in a secluded part of the library, their datapads and documents spread out like the pieces of a galactic puzzle. However, their sense of accomplishment was short-lived. As they left the library, shrouded in the darkness of the artificial night, a sudden disruption shattered the quiet. A group of masked figures emerged from the shadows, moving with deliberate aggression towards them. Hand over your research, one of the assailants demanded, his voice distorted by a modulator. Zelos felt a surge of adrenaline. We can't let this happen. Follow my lead, he whispered to his friends. Drawing on the tactical knowledge he'd acquired from Dr. Rivers' lectures on human military strategies, Zelos coordinated their response. Velk, create a diversion. Sora, Lyra, with me. Velk nodded, quickly pulling out a small device and activating it. A loud, disorienting noise erupted, causing momentary confusion among their attackers. Seizing the opportunity, Zelos, Sora, and Lyra sprinted towards a narrow passage, known only to those who had extensively explored the Academy's layout. Their escape was fraught with close calls as additional figures attempted to intercept them. Using a combination of stealth and improvised tactics, they managed to evade their pursuers, ducking into an engineering bay cluttered with maintenance equipment. Once they had a moment to breathe, Zelos checked his communicator. "We're clear for now, but we can't go back the way we came. We need another exit." Sora, who had memorized many of the station's schematics, quickly outlined a route. "There's a service elevator not far from here. It's rarely used at night." As they moved cautiously, Zelos couldn't help but wonder who was behind the attack. It was clear that their discoveries had threatened someone powerful enough to orchestrate a direct assault. They reached the service elevator and ascended to a higher level, emerging into a quieter zone of the academy. "We need to report this," Lyra said, her expression tense. "Not yet," Zelos countered. "First, we secure our data. Our presentation must go on as planned, or all this will have been for nothing." The group agreed, and after ensuring their research was still intact and secure on their encrypted drives, they contacted Dr. Rivers via a secure channel. The mentor's response was grim but encouraging. "You've just felt the sting of those who fear change. This proves how vital your work is. Stay the course and be careful." As dawn approached, the reality of their situation settled in. They weren't just academics caught in a historical intrigue. They were now active participants in a conflict that spanned the galaxy. This realization bonded them even more tightly together. They were determined to bring their revelations to light, not just for academic accolades, but to foster a new era of understanding and cooperation across the stars. With renewed determination, they prepared to face whatever challenges awaited at the Council presentation. The day of the Intergalactic Council meeting arrived. Despite the tense atmosphere and the lingering threat from their ambush, Zelos and his team felt prepared. They had secured their data against further attacks and were ready to present their findings to the galaxy's most influential leaders. The Grand Council chamber was a vast, circular room with delegates from hundreds of planets seated in rising tiers around a central podium. The air was thick with anticipation and the low murmur of dozens of languages. As they made their way to the front, Zelos felt every eye upon them. Dr. Rivers, who had helped them prepare for this moment, gave them an encouraging nod from where he sat with other academic advisors. "Esteemed delegates," Zelos began, his voice amplified to fill the chamber. "We stand before you to reveal findings that shed new light on the ascent of humanity, a civilization whose rise has often been regarded as a mystery." Velk continued, displaying a series of holographic images of the catalyst artifacts. "Our research has uncovered evidence of ancient artifacts, which we've termed catalysts, that significantly accelerated human development technologically and socially." Sora took over, her voice steady. "This timeline correlates the discovery of each catalyst with key advancements in human history. We believe these artifacts are not unique to humanity, but may exist for other civilizations, awaiting discovery." Lyra concluded their presentation with a call to action. "We advocate for transparency and cooperation in researching these catalysts. By sharing knowledge and resources, we can foster a broader ascension across galactic societies." The response was immediate and intense. Some delegates whispered fervently among themselves, while others applauded the courage of the students. However, not all were pleased. A delegate from a notoriously secretive species raised a hand. "How do we know these catalysts are not merely a human fabrication, a ploy to enhance their stature or claim resources?" the delegate challenged, casting a skeptical glance at the group. Before Zelos could respond, Dr. Rivers stood, his presence commanding silence. "The evidence has been verified by multiple independent sources, including non-human researchers. Denying the possibility of broader implications out of fear or rivalry undermines our purpose as a council, to advance all civilizations." The debate that followed was heated, with numerous factions expressing either support or concern about the potential for misuse of such powerful artifacts. After hours of discussion, the council president called for a vote. The decision was made to establish a new multi-species committee to oversee further investigation into the catalysts, with full transparency and shared governance. As the assembly disbanded, Zelos and his friends were approached by many delegates, some offering congratulations, others requesting more details or expressing caution about the road ahead. "We did it," Zelos said to his team, a broad smile breaking across his face. "We've started something that could change the galaxy." "And now we have to see it through," Lyra added, her eyes shining with determination. As they left the chamber, surrounded by the buzz of excited and speculative conversations, they knew their journey was far from over. But today, they had taken a crucial step toward shaping a future where knowledge led to unity rather than division. They walked back to their quarters, not as mere students, but as pioneers on the frontier of a new chapter in galactic history. In the weeks following the Intergalactic Council meeting, the galaxy buzzed with discussions about the catalyst artifacts and the potential for other civilizations to experience their own ascensions. Zelos and his team found themselves at the center of this historic shift, invited to speak at various symposiums and involved in planning the newly established Multi-Species Committee's research agenda. The Academy had become a hub for those interested in studying the catalysts, with scholars and scientists from across the galaxy gathering to collaborate. Dr. Rivers, now appointed as one of the lead advisors for the committee, was often seen leading discussions and debates on the best practices for handling and studying the artifacts. One day, as the artificial sunset colored the sky with hues of deep orange and purple, Zelos found himself walking alongside Dr. Rivers in one of the Academy's lush gardens. "You've done well, Zelos," Dr. Rivers said, his voice filled with a mix of pride and contemplation. "You and your friends have sparked a change that will ripple through centuries." Zelos looked around, taking in the diverse groups of beings chatting animatedly, their faces animated with enthusiasm and curiosity. "It feels overwhelming sometimes, to think that our curiosity led us here." "That's the essence of progress," Dr. Rivers replied. "Curiosity followed by action. You've not only uncovered history, you've set the stage for the future." As they walked, Zelos reflected on the personal changes he had undergone. From a curious student from Krithor to a pivotal figure in galactic affairs, his journey had been unimaginable just a few months ago. "Dr. Rivers, what happens now, for all of us?" Zelos asked, looking at his mentor. "Now you lead by example. You continue to learn, to teach, and to explore. This committee is just the beginning. You'll be helping to decide how we handle discoveries and integrate new knowledge into our societies." The conversation was interrupted by Lyra, Velk, and Sora, who joined them with news. "They've found another catalyst on a remote planet in the Targon sector," Lyra said excitedly. "They want us to be part of the exploration team." Zelos felt a thrill at the prospect. Another discovery, another adventure. "Looks like our journey continues," he said, his voice tinged with anticipation. Dr. Rivers laughed, a sound full of genuine amusement. "Did you expect any less? The universe is vast, and its mysteries are endless. Go, see what you can find, and keep pushing the boundaries." With new opportunities on the horizon, Zelos felt ready to take on whatever challenges came next. He was no longer just a student of the past, he was a pioneer of the future. As he and his friends prepared for their new mission, he knew that their experiences at the Academy had prepared them not just to face the unknown, but to embrace it. As the group walked back towards the academic buildings, the stars above began to shine through the fading light, each one a beacon of potential waiting to be explored. They stepped forward together, ready for the next chapter of their lives to unfold, guided by the lessons of humanity and the infinite possibilities of the galaxy.